Hey, Math 8, we are moving on to Chapter 6, Section 3. And in this section, we are going to just extend what we have done in the first two sections a little bit and look at some problems that might be a little bit harder than they were before. All right, so let's get started. Boom. All right, so today we're going to continue to look at linear situations, right? A linear situation is when there's a beginning amount and it increases or decreases by the same amount each time. We know this. Today we're going to take a linear situation and we're going to model it with both a table and an equation. All right, so let's review the table real quick, at least the easy ones. Hopefully they're easy at this point, that we did before. If I have a table like this one and I want to write a linear equation to model it, I need to figure out these two things, the beginning amount and the amount of increase. Well, we know this is the beginning amount, right? Because the beginning amount is found when x equals 0. And the amount of increase each time is obviously 4, right? Going up by 4 each time. So if we know those things, we can write our equation using our formula that y will always equal the beginning amount plus the amount it goes up each time times x. So y equals 9 plus 4x would be the equation for that table. All right. So let's look at what we're going to do today then. We're going to make a table to model, making a table to model a situation. All right, so we're going to start with a situation and make a table for it. And here are some helpful hints, I believe. Read the situation carefully and decide what the blank blank is and the amount that it is blank. Okay, I think we should know this. Read the situation and decide what the beginning amount is and the amount that it increases or decreases each time. Right? Those are always the two key things in a linear situation. Beginning amount and the amount it goes up each time. Now, we generally fill in a table. So we're trying to make a table. And generally, we fill in a table with the beginning amount and the next 2 or 3 values. All right? We're going to do one of these in a second. Remember, the beginning amount is when x equals 0. So when we fill in the table, we'll have x equals 0, and then the y will be the beginning amount. Other words that mean beginning amount. Ooh, I think these are good. You can look for these words in the story problem. Let's see, beginning amount might be called the initial amount. They like that word. Might be called the starting amount. Or another one they like is the original amount. All of these things mean the same as the beginning amount. All right, so once you fill in the table with the beginning amount, then use the amount of increase or decrease to fill in the next 2 or 3 values. All right, let's do an example. I think you'll see not too difficult. So we have Araya today. Araya was given a gift card for a coffee shop. Each morning, Araya uses the card to buy 1 cup of coffee. The original amount of money on the gift card, original amount, was $15. I think I know the beginning amount. And each cup of coffee costs $1.50. All right. So I want to show you a couple things here to help you with notation. It says, make a table of values. All right, let's do that first. Let's make a table of values. So first I'm going to fill in the original amount, right? Here's the X value. Apparently the number of cups of coffee is X, and when X equals 0, the original amount on that gift card is $15. Now, as she buys cups of coffee, is the amount of money, that's the Y value, is the amount of money remaining on the card going increasing or decreasing? Right? Of course, it's decreasing. Every time she buys a cup of coffee, she uses some of her money. And how much is it decreasing by? $1.50. So we're going to fill in the next 2 or 3 values using the fact that it needs to go minus $1.50 each time. So the next amount would be $13.50. I guess I could make it look like money. And then the next amount would be $12. And then the next amount would be $10.50. And I have filled in my table, right? You'll be asked to do that on your assignment. You'll be asked to fill in a table with 3 or 4 values like that from the story problem. All right, here's where I want to show you a little notation. So it says in the problem, write an equation for A. So they are actually calling the Y value A. And when we write our equation, instead of Y equals, it's going to be A equals. And the next thing they say is in terms of X, which means X is the variable we're going to be using when we write this equation. We're going to be using X. So A equals something, and we need to use X in the equation. And we already know how to do this, right? We know how to do this from a table to an equation because we're just going to use our formula, B plus MX. And we've already got that in the table, right? We know what the B value is. The beginning amount is when X equals 0, that'd be 15. And we have determined that it's not going up, it's going down, so we will use a minus instead of a plus. And it's going down by $1.50 each time. So our equation would be A equals 15 minus $1.50x. All right, once you make the table, you guys already know how to write the equation, right? Use the beginning amount and the amount it goes up or down each time. All right, so that's the first thing on your homework. The second thing, we are going to write equations for a table, but they are going to be more difficult. So you're going to want to watch this example closely. All right, so usually, at least up until now, when we write an equation to model the ordered pairs in a table, it's been fairly easy. We find the beginning amount. That, of course, is when X equals 0. I guess I should have said it's the Y value when X equals 0. And we find the amount of increase or decrease. And then we just substitute those numbers into the equation for the M and the B. But it's going to get tougher now. What if the beginning amount and the amount of increase are a little more difficult to find? Because the table does not include X equals 0. And it has random X values instead of going up by a nice pattern. All right, this is going to be a more difficult table to deal with, and I'm going to show you how to deal with it. So we're going to do this by looking at an example. Now, when you start this, you're going to want to start by instead of starting by finding the beginning amount, first we're going to start by finding how much it goes up by each time. And to do this, step 1, pick any 2 entries and find out how much the Y increases and how much the X increased. So I could pick any 2 of these. I'm going to go ahead and, I think I'm going to avoid the negatives, and I'm just going to pick these two. And it looks like the x increased by 2. X increased by 2. And when the x is increasing by 2, the y is increasing by 6. Do we see that? So the y increased by 6, the x increased by 2. And what I want to do is I want to divide these amounts. All right? I'm going to divide them. I'm always going to do the amount right here. The amount the y increased, that'd be 6, divided by the amount the x increased, that'd be 2. And when you divide those, you get 3, right? This is the amount of increase each time, right? Doesn't that make sense? If the y goes up by 6, but the x went up twice instead of once, well, then I divide the 6 by 2, and I get how much the y went up each time when the x went up twice. All right. So now I know the amount of increase each time. It's 3. Now I'm going to use this amount of increase each time to extend my table. So look, I took the same table, but I put a gap after the -1 because I want to fill in 0. And so I made a little gap after -1 so I could go from -1 to 0. And I'm going to use the fact that this goes up by 3 each time. I now know that the table goes up by 3 each time. So when x goes from -1 to 0, the y value must go from -2 to 1, because I know it's going up 3 each time. And now I know my beginning amount. My beginning amount is 1. My amount of increase each time is 3. So now I can go ahead and I can write my equation. And my equation would be y equals the beginning amount plus the amount it goes up each time times x. And the last thing on this, you guys, you can always check your answer. You can check your answer by taking another point and see if it works. Does 25 equal 1 plus 3 times 8? When you put the 8 in for the x and the 25 in for the y? It does. I have found the correct answer. Let's do one example. See if you can get it on your own maybe before I show it to you. And then we'll be done. All right, so here's my table. And the first thing I want to do is find the amount of increase. All right, go back to here if you need to. This is how you find the amount of increase each time. So I'm going to follow that same, I'm going to follow those same directions. I'm going to pick 2 points and I'm going to avoid the negatives again. And I noticed that the x went up 5 and the y went up 20. So I'm going to divide increase in y over increase in x. That would be 20 over 5, 4. 4 is the amount of increase each time. I found that. Now I'm taking my table and I'm starting at -2 and I'm extending it. And this time I put 2 gaps in it so I could go -2, -1, 0. The thing I really want to get to is 0. I could have started at 3 and gone backwards 3 spots, but I decided to start at -2 and go forward 2 spots. And you don't really have to extend the table like this. You could just do this mentally. And how much is it going up each time? It's going up by 4 each time. All right? So -4, when x goes up 1, y goes up 4. And when x goes up 1, y goes up 4. It looks like when x is 0, the y value is 4. I have found my beginning amount. It's 4. That's the same as the amount of increase each time. So my equation would look like this. And my equation would be y equals the beginning amount plus the amount it goes up each time. Y equals 4 plus 4x. All right? I think if you understand that, you are ready for the homework. I will see you guys next time.